The crimson dust of Xerion 7 swirled around Captain Kai Thorne's boots as he crested the rocky outcrop, his scanner beeping insistently. 20 years of searching had carved lines around his steel-gray eyes, but they still held the same desperate hope that had driven him to join the Intergalactic Search Corps. "Another dead end," muttered Lieutenant Jackson Vale, his communications officer, wiping sweat from his brow. The binary suns of Xerion 7 beat down mercilessly on their environmental suits. Kai ignored him, focused on the anomalous readings. Energy signatures unlike anything in the database pulsed from beyond the canyon ahead. His heart hammered. Not from exertion, but from a familiar mixture of hope and dread that had become his constant companion, Meera. Even after 2 decades, her name still echoed in his mind like a prayer. The memory struck him with brutal clarity. 8-year-old Kai clutching 3-year-old Meera's tiny hand as alarm shrieked through the evacuation ship. The Nethus raiders had come without warning, their bioships tearing through the colony's defenses like tissue paper. In the chaos, someone had torn Meera from his grasp, a woman screaming about getting the children to the escape pods. He'd searched every pod, every manifest, every survivor list. Meera Thorne was listed as missing presumed deceased. The official report claimed her pod had been destroyed by Nethus fire. But they never found wreckage, never found a body, never found her. "Sir?" Jackson's voice cut through the memory. "The readings are getting stronger." Kai blinked, refocusing on the present. His scanner was practically humming now, detecting not just energy but life. Complex, organized, intentional. A settlement. "Radio command," Kai ordered, his pulse quickening. "Tell them we've found something." They descended into the canyon, following a path that seemed almost too perfect, too deliberate. The walls were carved with symbols, not Xerion native markings, but something else. Something that made Kai's enhanced intuition prickle with recognition. The settlement revealed itself gradually, structures that seemed grown rather than built, their surfaces shifting between metallic gleam and organic curves. Bioluminescent, plants provided gentle lighting and the air itself seemed to shimmer with barely visible energy. "By the void," Jackson whispered. "What is this place?" Figures emerged from the structures, humanoid but wrong somehow, their movements too fluid, their features too perfect. Hybrids, Kai realized. Human-alien crossbreeds, supposedly impossible according to Galactic Science Division reports. But it was the figure approaching them that made Kai's world tilt on its axis. She moved with liquid grace, her skin holding a faint luminescence that caught the alien light. Her hair was darker than space itself, but shot through with silver strands that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. When she raised her head, Kai saw eyes that glowed with soft amber fire, eyes that were hauntingly, impossibly familiar. The eyed shape of her face, the curve of her lips, the way she tilted her head when curious. "No, it can't be." She spoke, her voice a melody that mixed human intonation with something musical and alien. "Travelers from the void ships, you seek what among the balanced?" Kai's scanner fell from nerveless fingers. The device clattered on the stone, its readout still scrolling genetic markers that his mind refused to process. 20 years of searching, 20 years of hope and heartbreak. 20 years of following every lead, every whisper, every impossible dream. And here she stood, transformed, enhanced, alive, but undeniably, impossibly, his sister. "Meera?" The name escaped his lips like a prayer answered by a god he'd stopped believing in. The glowing eyes widened, and for just a moment, the alien grace faltered. Something flickered across her face. Recognition, confusion, pain. When she spoke again, her voice carried a tremor of uncertainty. "I know this sound, this name word." She pressed a hand to her temple, her luminous skin flickering. From the before time. From the dreams that taste of salt water and fear. Kai stepped forward, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst. "It's me, Meera. It's Kai, your brother." The DNA scanner's results materialized in holographic display between them, twin helixes spinning lazily in the alien twilight. Kai stared at the readout, his hands trembling as the numbers confirmed what his heart already knew. 99.7% genetic match. Siblings. Vera, for that was what she called herself now, studied the display with those luminous amber eyes, her expression cycling through confusion, wonder, and something deeper. Pain, perhaps, or recognition fighting against years of careful conditioning. Kai, she repeated, the name rolling off her tongue with increasing familiarity. Brother bond. Yes. I remember fragments. A boy with storm-colored eyes who sang to chase away night terrors. Lieutenant Jackson had wisely retreated to give them space, but Kai barely noticed. The world had narrowed to this impossible moment, this woman who was his sister but so much more than human now. You sang too, Kai whispered, stepping closer. Lullabies our mother taught you. Even at 3 you had the most beautiful voice. Her hand rose unconsciously to her throat, where Kai could now see faint marks, not scars, but deliberate modifications. Patterns that pulsed with soft light synchronized with her heartbeat. The Xerions found me, she said, her voice carrying both gratitude and sorrow. My pod. It was damaged, but not destroyed. I was dying when they pulled me from the wreckage. They saved me, but... She gestured to herself, to the subtle alien beauty that enhanced every human feature. Salvation came with transformation. Kai reached out instinctively, then stopped himself when she tensed. What did they do to you? They gave me life, Vera replied, but her tone suggested the answer was more complex than those simple words. Enhanced my genetics, awakened dormant. Potentials gifted me with abilities your kind cannot imagine. I can sense the quantum threads that connect all living things, speak to minds across star systems, heal wounds with touch. To demonstrate, she placed her palm against a withered plant nearby. Soft light pulsed from her fingers and the plant straightened, its leaves unfurling in vibrant health. Incredible, Kai breathed, but his scientific wonder was overshadowed by grief. But why didn't they return you? Why didn't they let anyone know you survived? Vera's luminous eyes darkened. Because I was not merely saved, I was chosen. The Xerions are dying, Kai. Their species grows weaker with each generation, their numbers dwindling. They needed a bridge between worlds, someone who could understand both human emotion and Xerion wisdom. She gestured to the hybrid settlement around them. These are my people now, children of 2 worlds who need guidance, protection, hope. I am their Veranash, their heartkeeper, their voice in the cosmic balance. Kai felt his world tilting again. This wasn't just about finding his sister anymore. She hadn't just survived. She'd become something transcendent, something necessary. But you're still my sister, he said desperately. Under all the enhancements, all the responsibility, you're still Meera. The little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Something flickered across her face. Vulnerability. Longing. For a moment the alien grace dropped away, and he saw his sister clearly. The scared child who'd been torn from everything she knew. I dream of storms, she admitted softly. Of strong arms holding me while the sky tears itself apart. Of a voice promising that dawn always comes. Her eyes met his, and they were wet with tears that sparkled like liquid starlight. I remember you, Kai. Not everything, but enough. The distance between them seemed to collapse and expand simultaneously. 20 years of separation, of different worlds, of transformation beyond recognition, yet the bond remained, fragile but unbroken. Come home with me, Kai whispered. We can figure this out together. You don't have to carry this burden alone. Vera's expression grew pained. This is my home now. These people need me. And I... She hesitated, then continued with heartbreaking honesty. I don't know if I can survive in your world anymore. The enhancements, the quantum sensitivity. Human space is too harsh, too discordant. It would be like trying to breathe underwater. Kai felt his heart breaking all over again. He'd found her, but she might still be lost to him. The sister he'd searched for was here, but she belonged to something larger than their shared past. Then, I'll stay, he said impulsively. I'll resign from the Corps, help you here. No. Her voice carried sudden authority, the tone of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected entire communities. Your path lies among the stars, brother. You've dedicated your life to finding the lost. That calling doesn't end with me. The sun was setting, casting the settlement in ethereal light. In that glow, Vera looked more alien than ever, and heartbreakingly beautiful. But maybe, she added, her voice soft with possibility, we can find a way to bridge our worlds, to heal the gap that trauma tore between us. She extended her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Kai took it. Her skin was warm, electric, thrumming with alien energy. But beneath all the enhancements, he felt something achingly familiar. His sister's hand, grown strong but still capable of perfect trust. Show me, he said, show me who you've become. 3 days had passed since Kai's arrival, and the hybrid settlement had begun to feel less alien and more like stepping into a dream he hadn't known he was having. Vera had given him quarters in the central spire, a living structure that adjusted, its luminescence to match human circadian rhythms, and gradually introduced him to her world. The transformation was staggering. His sister, once so small he could carry her on his shoulders, now commanded respect from beings whose very existence challenged galactic law. She mediated disputes with the wisdom of someone decades older, her enhanced empathy allowing her to sense the emotional undercurrents that drove every conflict. Watch, she said as they stood on the settlement's highest balcony, observing the morning activities below. Do you see the Terran-Xerion hybrid near the crystalline gardens? Jorik, he's struggling with identity displacement. His human genetics crave individual achievement, but his Xerion heritage pulls him toward collective harmony. Kai watched as the young man seemed to wrestle with some internal conflict, his posture shifting between aggressive and submissive. How do you help him? Kai asked, genuinely curious. By understanding that the conflict isn't weakness, it's potential. Vera's voice carried the patient tone of someone who'd learned these lessons through her own struggles. Integration, not elimination. Both aspects of his nature can coexist if he learns to see them as complementary rather than contradictory. As she spoke, her hand found his arm, a gesture so natural it seemed unconscious. The contact sent warmth racing through Kai's system, not just from the alien energy that always surrounded her, but from the simple human comfort of her touch. Is that how you've survived? He asked quietly. By integrating rather than choosing. Her luminous eyes met his, and for a moment her carefully maintained composure cracked. Some days I feel like I'm being pulled apart by gravitational forces I can't control. The human part of me wants to run back to the life I lost, to be Meera again. Simple, innocent, yours. But the Xerion enhancements won't allow it. They've made me responsible for so much more than my own happiness. The vulnerability in her voice made Kai's chest tighten. Without thinking, he turned to face her fully, his hands coming up to frame her face. Her skin was warm silk under his palms, the faint luminescence pulsing faster at his touch. You're not responsible for everything, he said fiercely. You were 3 years old when they took you. You didn't choose this burden. But I choose to. Carry it now, she replied, though she didn't pull away from his touch. These people need me, Kai. Without guidance, the hybrids will either lose themselves to madness or become weapons in the wrong hands. I've seen what happens when integration fails. Her words were noble, but Kai could see the cost in the shadows under her eyes, in the way she held herself like someone balancing on a knife's edge. The little sister who'd once found comfort in his presence was still there, buried under layers of responsibility and enhancement. What about what you need? He asked, his thumbs tracing the delicate patterns of light beneath her skin. When was the last time someone took care of you? The question seemed to catch her off guard. Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, the alien composure slipped entirely. What he saw underneath was heartbreakingly human. loneliness, exhaustion, and a desperate hunger for connection. "I can't," she whispered. "If I let myself be vulnerable, if I allow myself to want things beyond my duty, you'll remember that you're more than just a bridge between worlds," Kai finished. "You're a person with your own needs, your own dreams." The space between them seemed to shrink, charged with years of separation and the electric potential of her enhancements. She was so close he could feel her breath on his lips, could see the flecks of starlight in her amber eyes. "Kai," she breathed, and his name on her lips carried a weight of longing that made his heart race. "I know," he said softly, though he wasn't entirely sure what he was acknowledging. The complexity of their situation, the impossibility of simple answers, the way she looked at him with eyes that held both sibling affection and something deeper, more complicated. She pulled back slightly, conflict written across her features. "This is dangerous territory, brother. The enhancements don't just affect my appearance, they've changed how I experience connection, intimacy. I can sense your emotions, your desires. I can feel how much you've missed me, how much I what?" he asked, though part of him already knew. Her eyes closed, and when she spoke, her voice was barely audible. "How much you love me, not just as a sister, but as the woman I've become. It's written in your quantum signature, in the way your heart rate changes when I'm near." The truth hung between them, complex and undeniable. 20 years of separation had transformed them both, had made them strangers who shared blood and history, but little else. Yet the connection remained, evolved into something that defied simple categorization. "And you?" Kai asked, knowing he was stepping into territory that might destroy them both. "What do your enhancements tell you about your own feelings?" Vera opened her eyes, and in them he saw the same confused longing he felt. "That I love you too," she admitted. "In ways that would have been impossible before. In ways that terrify me. The Xerion modifications have awakened emotional capacities I don't fully understand." The confession hung in the air between them, dangerous and beautiful. Kai felt as though he was standing at the edge of a precipice, knowing that one wrong step would send them both tumbling into chaos. "What do we do with that?" he asked. Vera's hand found his cheek, her touch electric and gentle. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know that I can't lose you again. Not when I've just found you." The attack came at dawn, shattering the delicate peace Kai and Vera had been building. Nethus raiders, the same species that had destroyed their childhood, descended on the settlement with weapons that screamed through the crystalline air. Kai was thrown from sleep by the sound of energy weapons and Vera's voice, amplified by her enhancements, calling the settlement to defensive positions. He found her on the command platform, her entire body glowing with channeled energy as she coordinated the hybrid defenders. "How many?" he shouted over the chaos, his military training kicking in despite the surreal circumstances. 15 ships, roughly 300 raiders," she replied, her voice eerily calm despite the battle raging around them. "They've been tracking the energy signatures from our quantum generators. They want our technology." Kai watched in amazement as she directed the defense with inhuman precision, her enhanced senses allowing her to track multiple battles simultaneously. But he could also see the cost. Her luminescence was flickering, her movements becoming less fluid as the effort drained her. "You're pushing too hard," he warned, moving to her side. "You can't sustain this level of enhancement indefinitely." "I have to," she replied through gritted teeth. "If the settlement falls, if the Nethus capture our people." An explosion rocked the platform, sending them both stumbling. Kai caught Vera as she swayed and felt the heat radiating from her overtaxed enhancement systems. "There's another way," he said urgently. "My ship has military-grade shields and weapons. Let me help." Vera's eyes met his, and in them he saw a struggle he recognized, the same battle between duty and trust that had shaped both their lives. "I can't protect you and coordinate the defense," she said finally. "If something happens to you—" "Then we fail together," Kai interrupted. "Like we should have 20 years ago." The words seemed to break something in her carefully maintained composure. For a moment, she was just Meera again, the scared little girl who'd needed her big brother to chase away the monsters. Together, she whispered, and the word carried the weight of a vow. The battle that followed was unlike anything Kai had experienced. Fighting alongside Vera, he witnessed abilities that defied human understanding. She could anticipate enemy movements, coordinate attacks across vast distances, and channel energy in ways that turned the tide of individual skirmishes. But it was in the quiet moments between engagements that he truly saw her. When she thought no one was watching, her alien composure would slip, revealing exhaustion, fear, and a desperate need for connection. "I've never fought beside anyone before," she admitted as they took shelter in a crystal alcove while her energy reserves recharged. "The Xerions are pacifists by nature. All my training was theoretical." "You're doing fine," Kai assured her. Though fine was a massive understatement. She was extraordinary, terrifying, and beautiful in her power. "I'm scared," she confessed, and the admission seemed to surprise her as much as it did him. "Not of dying. I've made peace with that possibility. But of losing what we've found again. Of not having time to understand what this is between us." Her hand found his in the dim light, and Kai felt the now familiar electric pulse of her touch. But underneath the alien energy, he felt something achingly human. His sister's hand, seeking comfort in the darkness. "We have time," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. "We have right now." Without thinking, he leaned forward and kissed her. It was meant to be comfort, reassurance. But the moment their lips met, something fundamental shifted. The kiss deepened, became something desperate and hungry, charged with 20 years of separation and the electric potential of her enhancements. When they broke apart, Vera's eyes were wide with shock and desire. "Kai, we shouldn't—" "I know," he said, but his hands were still framing her face, his thumbs tracing the delicate patterns of light beneath her skin. "I know all the reasons why this is wrong, impossible, dangerous, but I also know that I love you. All of you, everything you've become." Her breath caught, and for a moment her careful control wavered. "The enhancements make everything more intense," she whispered. "Emotions, sensations, connections. I can feel your feelings as clearly as my own, and it's overwhelming." "Then feel this," Kai said, letting his guard down completely, letting her sense everything, his love, his desire, his desperate need to protect her, his admiration for her strength. "Feel how proud I am of who you've become. How much I want to be part of your world." Vera's eyes closed, and when she opened them again, they were bright with unshed tears. "I feel it," she whispered. "I feel all of it, and I want—" She stopped, conflict written across her features. "What do you want?" Kai asked gently. "I want to be selfish," she admitted. "I want to choose you over duty, over the settlement, over everything. I want to run away with you to some distant world where we can just be Kai and Meera again." The honesty in her voice made Kai's heart ache. "But you won't." "I can't," she said, though the words clearly caused her pain. "Too many people depend on me. But maybe there's a middle path. Maybe we can find a way to honor both our connection and our responsibilities." Another explosion shook their shelter, reminding them that the battle was far from over. Vera's luminescence flared as she prepared to rejoin the fight, but Kai caught her hand. "After this is over," he said urgently, "we need to talk, really talk, about what this means, about what we want." Vera nodded, her expression resolving into determined focus. "After this is over," she agreed. "Whatever comes next, we face it. Together." As they emerged from the shelter to rejoin the battle, Kai felt something shift between them, a recognition that they were no longer just brother and sister, but partners in something larger and more complex than either had anticipated. The aftermath of the battle left the settlement scarred but victorious. The Nethus raiders had been driven off, but at a cost. Several hybrids were injured, and the quantum generators that powered the settlement's defenses were damaged beyond immediate repair. Kai stood in the medical bay, watching Vera tend to the wounded with hands that glowed with healing energy. Even exhausted, her movements were graceful, efficient, necessary. She was exactly where she belonged, doing exactly what she was meant to do. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He couldn't ask her to choose between him and this world she'd built. It wouldn't just be selfish. It would be cruel. The generators will take weeks to repair, Lieutenant Jackson reported, approaching with a datapad full of damage assessments. The settlement's vulnerable if there's another attack. Kai nodded absently, his attention fixed on Vera as she helped a young hybrid whose arm had been damaged by Nethus weaponry. The child couldn't have been more than 12, but his genetic modifications were already visible. Skin that shifted between human flesh tones and something more metallic, eyes that held flecks of impossible colors. These people need protection, Kai murmured more to himself than to Jackson. Sir? Jackson looked confused. Respectfully, that's not our mission. We found what we came for. Your sister. The Corps expects a full report, and Command will want to study the settlement. Catalog the hybrids. No. The word came out sharper than Kai intended. We're not cataloging anyone, and Vera isn't coming back with us. Jackson's eyebrows rose. Sir, I don't understand. Isn't this why we've been searching for 20 years? Kai watched as Vera finished healing the child's arm, saw the boy's face light up with gratitude and adoration. She was their heartkeeper, their bridge between worlds, their hope for a future where human and alien could coexist. I was searching for my little sister, Kai said quietly. But she doesn't exist anymore. The woman she became, she belongs here. That evening they walked together through the settlement's memory gardens, living walls of crystalline structures that held holographic records of the hybrid's stories. Each one glowed softly in the twilight, creating a constellation of preserved moments. I've made my decision, Kai said as they paused before a particular crystal that showed a young hybrid learning to control her shape-shifting abilities. I'm resigning from the Search Corps. Vera turned to him, her luminous eyes wide with surprise. Kai, no. You can't sacrifice your career. I'm not sacrificing anything, he interrupted gently. I'm choosing something better. These people need protection, and I need to be where you are. It's not duty, it's love. Her expression cycled through surprise, gratitude, and something that looked almost like panic. You don't understand what you're offering to give up. Your whole life is out there among the stars. The Search Corps, your mission. My mission was always to find you, Kai said simply. Everything else was just marking time until I could bring you home. But I was wrong about what home means. It's not a place. It's being with the people who matter. Vera's eyes filled with the starlight tears he was learning to recognize. And if I asked you to stay anyway? If I was selfish enough to want you here, despite everything you'd be giving up, then I'd stay, Kai said without hesitation. But you won't ask because you're not selfish. It's one of the things I love most about who you've become. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, surrounded by the soft glow of preserved memories and the hum of the settlement's life. There might be another way, Vera said eventually, her voice thoughtful. The Galactic Council has been looking for mediators, people who can help establish peaceful contact with non-aligned species. Someone with your experience and my abilities. A diplomatic team, Kai said, understanding immediately. We could work together, help prevent conflicts like the one that separated us. It would mean traveling together, being partners in every sense, Vera continued, her voice growing stronger with possibility. But it would also mean serving something larger than ourselves. Kai felt something settle into place, a rightness he hadn't experienced since he was 8 years old and responsible for protecting his little sister. Partners? He repeated, savoring the word. I like the sound of that. Vera stepped closer, her hand finding his cheek. The touch was electric, as always, but now it carried something new. Certainty, acceptance, love without reservation. I can't promise it will be easy, she warned. The enhancements make everything more intense, more complicated. And we'll always be walking the line between family and something deeper. I know, Kai said, covering her hand with his own. But I've spent 20 years learning that the most important things are worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth everything. When she kissed him this time, it was different from their desperate embrace during the battle. This was a promise, a choice, a new beginning built on the foundation of shared purpose and deep, complicated love. Together, Vera whispered against his lips, echoing the vow they'd made in battle. Together, Kai agreed. And for the first time, in 20 years, the word felt like coming home. 3 months later, their first diplomatic mission took them to the edge of known space, where a Terran mining colony was having disputes with a crystalline species that communicated through harmonic frequencies. As their ship approached the contested system, Kai watched Vera prepare for the negotiations. Her luminous eyes focused, her enhanced abilities already reaching out to sense the emotional currents of the conflict. She was magnificent, terrible, and absolutely necessary. And she was his partner in every way that mattered. "Ready?" she asked, her hand finding his with familiar electric warmth. "Always," he replied, and meant it. "Let's go save the galaxy, one conversation at a time." The stars stretched out before them, full of possibility and challenge. And for the first time since he was 8 years old, Kai Thorne felt truly complete.